All right, man. How excited are you for tonight?
Dude, I am so happy fights are back. I mean, granted, it is very interesting with the late breaking news last night at Jacare. I'm interested to see how this changes things, but man, I am so glad that fights are back. And
Yeah,
this card specifically. Wow.
yeah. It's crazy, man. Like even to think about it, like they pulled that fight, and I'm like, oh, shit, man, that's a good fight. But then I was like, it was on the prelims. Like it's not like it was a
Yeah.
Hall and Jacare should never be on the prelims, but that's how stacked this card is, top to bottom. It's actually crazy how stacked it is. So even losing that fight, it's still one of the most stacked cards we've seen in a long time.
I mean, even if you think about Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer originally being on and that being removed, it's still a stat card.
Yeah, and two title fights. Ngannou Rozenstruik, Stevens Cater, Hardy's on the card, Cerrone and Pettis closing out the prelims. Like it's crazy. I love it though. They would definitely went big for it for the first fight back. So we'll start, man, with the our predictions. What are your thoughts? I guess we'll start at the bottom, work our way up, and you go from there. First one is Ryan Spann and Sam Alvey. I think it's fair to say everyone's going for Spann, or everyone thinks Spann's going to win. What's your prediction there, and how do you think he wins?
I think easiest choice of the night. I think Ryan Spann steamrolls him. Sam Alvey, though, he is a tough guy, so I would be intrigued if it happened in the first round. But I think early second round at the absolute latest, TKO, KO. Ryan Spann's a monster. He's on a huge fight win streak. If you think, I think he's won 7 in a row. Um, and nothing against Devin Clark, but I mean, he even submitted Devin Clark. He's got 3 submissions, two knockout or 3 submissions, 3 knockouts in his last 7 fights with only 1 decision. He's finishing Sam Alvey somehow. Sam on the other side, though, he's only won 3 of his last 7. He's on a 3 fight losing streak. I think he's in a weird position where he doesn't know whether to be light heavyweight, whether to be middleweight. He's kind of bounced around based on 185 weight issues. I think he's too small for 19 or 205. It's interesting, but Ryan Spann finishes him.
Yeah, I have it the same way. I have Ryan Spann via TKO in the second round. I don't think, even though he submitted Devin Clark, like he said, Sam Alvey hasn't been submitted in 10 years, so I think it's unlikely he gets submitted. I think he's too experienced to get submitted, but I think he gets finished. I think he got TKO'd in 2 of his last 3 fights. So, yeah, Spann second round. I think, like you said, easiest pick of the night. Then we have Charles Rosa, Bryce Mitchell, featherweight division. I love this fight.
I
I
do
like
too.
both. I like both guys a lot. I'm a huge fan of Charles Rosa because of what he does outside of fighting with Chucky's fight and the organization. I like his story, how doctors told him he couldn't fight, fought through it, came back and won in Boston. It's hard not to root for him. That being said, I love Bryce Mitchell. So hate it when two guys I like fight each other. This is a good fight. What's your pick on it?
uh, this is a really tough fight because Charles Rosa has had some wars, whether it's the Dennis Seaver fight. I mean, even look at how well he did against Yair.
They
So,
fought to a split, I think, right? Yeah.
yeah. And so when you think about level of competition, I think that Charles Rosa has the advantage.
Yeah.
Um, Bryce Mitchell's an interesting cat, and he definitely, I think, plays a little into his country boy persona. But with that said, I think Bryce Mitchell gets it done. I don't think it's a finish. I think it is a close fight, but I think he squeaks out a decision. Split decision, majority decision, some type of close fight all the way to the end. But this will be one of the 3 fights we talk about tomorrow, I bet.
Yeah, I have this one as well. I wrote notes on all of them. I said, like you said, Rosa's only losses really have been to Yair, Burgos, and Seaver earlier on in his UFC career. So those 3 losses, no shame in any of those, and they all went to decision. He hasn't been finished. So I do think that Bryce Mitchell has the tools to win, but not finish him. He obviously had an impressive submission in his last fight, but he wasn't fighting a guy like Charles Rosa. So I have it similar. I think 2 rounds to 1 for Bryce. But Bryce Mitchell, I think, gets it done. Now the prelims on ESPN. We start off with a banger. I think this is a close second, maybe, for fight of the night favorite. Vicente Luque, Niko Price, round 2. They fought the first time. The first one ended in a submission for Luque. Do you think this one plays out similarly, or do you think it's Niko's a lot better than he once was?
Man, I will tell you single-handedly, this is probably the toughest fight to pick. The first fight was an absolute war. Niko was undefeated going into it. Vicente hit him with a slick Darce choke.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I hate to say it. I think Vicente Luque wins. I don't think it's a finish. I think it's an all-out another war. So, like, I think this is the second of 3 fights that we will talk about tomorrow, where it was just put on for the show, for the fans. I think that Vicente squeaks out a win just because Niko can't finish him. Because Vicente's chin is ridiculous. And I think that will allow him to keep working and win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I love Niko Price, and I'm find myself rooting for him. I want him to win. I want him to propel himself there into the top 15 because I think there's a lot of exciting fights for him once he gets in there. But I think Luque's level of competition. I mean, he fought Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy couldn't finish him. Niko Price's level of competition hasn't been as strong as Luque's, and even though he looked impressive against Vic's chin hasn't been holding up. So I don't think Luque's chin is going to fold like Vic's did. And for that reason, I have Luque winning, but I think Luque actually gets it done. I think Luque and Price are going to just start swinging until some think it's going to be Niko. Let's hope that's what happens. Yeah. And then the next one was supposed to be Hall versus Souza. Obviously that fight is off, but how did you have that going?
Man, so I do read a ton that goes into it, and so prior to the fight, so it's interesting that Jacare actually tested positive. I didn't think he would test positive, but there were some reports that he was concerned about like his family members prior to it. Yeah. And I know that it didn't really seem like Jacare wanted to fight. He more had to fight. And so prior to the fight, I did have Uriah winning on some crazy Uriah Hall catches you in a weird moment type finish.
Jaeger Musasi moment.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
I will say if these guys were to fight in the future, I would actually probably flip my vote to Jacare just because Jacare knows, given the circumstances, that he has to win at this point. I've met Uriah Hall quite a few times, to be honest. One of the nicest guys ever. Uriah Hall, I'm going to say I pick Uriah.
I love Uriah Hall, like the way he fights and everything, but I mean, I didn't look into it. I didn't know that, you know, his family members, he was worried about his family members and he felt the fight was forced on him. But I just feel like, you know, even though he's coming off a 2-fight losing streak, he's, you know, Uriah. He barely beat Antonio Carlos Jr., and I just think Jacare is on another level compared to those two. Aside from the fact he's a 4th-degree black belt, his hands are really, really good. His only losses have been to the elites in the middleweight division, so I'd had Jacare winning, but I didn't think he was going to finish him. I just thought it was going to be a comfortable decision, especially given the fact he was coming off 2 straight losses. I thought he would coast, and I thought it would be like two rounds to 1, but I thought Jacare would win via decision. Obviously, we won't know because the fight's off. So we may know somewhere down the line, but for now, we will not know the result of that fight. And then we have the only 2 females fighting on the card. And 2 studs. I like them both. Michelle Waterson, obviously, coming off to her loss to Joanna, which there's no shame in that. You lost a decision to Joanna, and Carla Esparza, who's coming off back-to-back wins. What's your take? Who do you have, and how?
This is a tough fight too. Like this is the thing I love about this card, is there's a lot of tough fights. I mean, when you look and you compare Michelle Waterson and Carla Esparza, like I think they've lost to the top tier of people, right? Like the Joannas, the Tatiana Suarez's, like they have a lot of mutual losses. Now this is your classic striker versus grappler match. Oh my gosh. Like my heart wants to tell me Carla's gonna win just because of her wrestling. Um, but then I wonder, like from a training standpoint, like COVID makes such an interesting perspective on any of your votes. Um, so I'm actually gonna go with Michelle Waterson, karate hottie, unanimous decision win. I think she'll point fight. She'll keep distance. She'll almost pull like the female Stephen Thompson, get in and get out before getting like taken down. Um, if you look at her last three losses, like when you look at Michelle Waterson, this is no shot at Carla, but Joanna, Tisha, Rose, like those are probably the top three women right now in that division. But like the fact that when she went out and beat Felicia Herring, that really surprised me. Not that Felicia's the greatest, right? But I thought it was a bad matchup for Michelle, and she still went out and won that fight. So with that, I think that kind of gives me the edge, even though MMA math doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Just one second. My phone's going off. There we go.
Do you have a home phone?
I have a home phone. Yeah, I'm one of the few people that still have one. Yeah, yeah. It never
That's
rings
awesome.
though, which is weird. It's great. Right when I'm on a call, it rings. It hasn't rang all of like the entire pandemic. Yeah, I don't know. Weird, but yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think she points fights to a victory. Carla Esparza is coming off a win streak though, so you never know. You never know which Carla is going to show up, and I think that's the stuff. Sometimes she looks like a world beater, and other times she just, it just seems like she's off. But Michelle Waterson always comes down to fight. She's unbelievable, and I think she's top five and has been for a while. So I think she gets it done, but I think it's going to be a close one. I think this might be like a coin toss. I think this might be the closest fight of the night. Um, yeah, I have Waterson, but a close decision. And then after that, we have the battle of the jiu-jitsu specialists. And that like both of them seem like they're like in their 70s. They've been around forever. So Aleksei Oleinik and Fabricio Werdum. How do you have that?
Dude, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. Bold prediction. Fabricio Werdum retires Aleksei Oleinik. First round KO. Oleinik retires. Werdum springboards after 2 years off into the chaotic picture that is the heavyweight division and really complicates things even more. I think Oleinik is getting older, right? I am a little salty. He beat my buddy Mo in his last fight, so I'm still a little salty from that one. But I think his ground game's strong, right? Like it's probably the best in the heavyweight division. Him and Werdum are probably the top two. I would say Verdum's probably not worried about it, right? I mean, he should be worried about, but he's a much better level jiu-jitsu fighter than anyone else that Oleinik has fought. On top of it, Werdum has hands compared to granted, like Walteris knocked out Oleinik, Overeem knocked him out, Curtis Blades knocked him out, right? When you look at some of those top echelon heavy hitters, I think Werdum kind of matches that. And he's got a chip on his shoulder, right? He's been out for 2 years. People have kind of forgotten about him prior to Werdum leaving. Granted, the Volkov fight was weird, but he had a pretty good run going. I think Werdum retires him. Bold prediction.
Yeah, I think I have Werdum winning it. It's weird because although they've both been, around for forever. Werdum's fought the who's who. Oleinik's got 150 fights. neither one of them have been submitted. So even though that they're both fighting like high level submission fighters, I don't think either one of them will submit the other. I think if anyone's going to submit, I think it's going to be Werdum will do it, but I don't think he's got what it takes to submit Oleinik. And I think the grappling is just kind of neutralize it. And it's going to come down to who's better on the feet. And like you said, I think Werdum is better. That being said, because of the layoff, I think he's just going to want to get in there and get a win. And I have him winning, be a comfortable decision, but I have Werdum winning it. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think that one's the only pick I feel comfortable with who I'm picking. I'm not comfortable with the method because he could come out with a flying kick like he did with Travis Brown, right, and KO him inside 5 seconds. So you never know what Verdum's going to show up. But I don't think I have it via decision.
I like it.
Yeah. And now my favorite fighter of all time, Cowboy Cerrone, against one of my favorite fighters of all time, Showtime Pettis. I hate this fight. I absolutely hate it. I love both guys. So it's a hard one for me to watch. How do you have it?
Man, this is tough. I agree. Also, favorite fighter, Cerrone. I give him a lot of kudos for kind of what he's talked about over the last week about Donald showing up, but Cowboy not against McGregor. It's kind of the key thing in big fights. And it's interesting. These are guys that no matter how many times they win or lose, you're probably still going to root for them, right? And that's maybe probably why I don't like them being matched up together because it's already happened, and I hate to see one of them lose again. But they're in weird spots of their career, right? Even if you look at their last 10, 12, 14 fights, it's not the most impressive record, but they don't get a lot of heat for it. Mm-hmm. The interesting perspective is normally, even if you go back and you watch other Donald Cerrone fights, the fights that he's the most successful on is where he pulls this buddy approach with with who he's fighting. And that person plays into it, right? They become his friend. They're yeah, Donald. And you see that from Showtime this week, I think. I think Pettis isn't pulling the hey, pardon my language, fuck you, bud, I'm here to fight card. He's more hey, yeah, let's go have a good time. I think that benefits Cerrone. Granted, Cerrone did get finished with a body kick last time. I think he protects the body a little bit better. I think his striking's a little bit crisper. I think it's an all-out war. I think it gets $50,000 for each one of them. I'm going with Cerrone.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've been back and forth on this just because the method in which Cerrone lost his last three. He got dropped against Gaethje. Obviously, the Conor loss within under a minute pretty much, and Ferguson battering his face. But then I realize it's Gaethje, it's Ferguson, and it's Conor. So he's not losing to mid-tier guys. His last three losses have been to studs, top guys in the world champions, former world champions, future world champions. So I don't think there's any shame in those three losses. So I just kind of shrug those aside, and I look back at the fights that he did have prior to that, and the way he dismantled Mike Perry, the way he KO'd Alex Hernandez.
One of my favorite of all time, by the way.
Yeah, it was a crazy fight. And Pettis, he lost to Nate Diaz, and then he lost to Carlos Diego Ferreira, and it's not the same level of competition. It's not the top guys. It's not world champions. So just based on their recent performances, I'm leaning towards Cerrone, even though he did lose the first fight. But I think it's going to be if any of them gets dropped, they're just going to laugh it off and let the other guy back up. I think they're just there to have fun and put on a show. So I don't think either one of them finishes it. I just think it's going to be Cowboy via decision, but just them having fun, which is why I love Cowboy. That's my favorite Cowboy. Is when he's out there doing that. So, I don't see either one of them finishing the other. But I have Cowboy via decision.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think the one interesting perspective that I find is like it feels like Cerrone always gets the name, right? Like he always gets the fighter with the name, where I feel like Pettis has been put against like some of these like up and coming killers, which has really hurt his perception a little bit. So I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yep, yep. I mean, Cowboy had that with Alex Hernandez, but outside of that, it's all been. I mean, and Yancey, but outside of that, it's all been like top level guys. He's never fought some guy outside of top 15, outside of when he had that like 15 fight win streak, where he'd fight anybody that would show up. I also love his mentality of saying, "I'll fight all 3 times this week." Not gonna happen.
I bet you he probably does. That'd be crazy.
But if anyone's gonna do it, it's Cowboy. So, also, did you see Gilbert Burns saying he'd fight Uriah Hall?
100%. Dude, Gilbert Burns, I'm telling you right now, there are 2 people that have taken over the MMA world, the social media world, and if you disagree that it's Gilbert Burns and Darren Till, I don't know where you've been living lately, but those guys are on fire lately.
Yeah, Darren Till is hilarious. I have him ranked. I think he just passed Derek Lewis as number 1 funniest guys on social media. Derek Lewis is a close second, but I have Darren Till just passing him. And Gilbert Burns saying he'd fight anybody. I love it. I love it. It's like the new Cowboy. But it's fun, man. It's fun.
I don't know how he affords it. Gilbert Burns is at every event, no matter what event, what country I've been in, he's always there. I'm like, dude, how do you afford this? You're always here, just in case.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think he's cornering this weekend. I think he's cornering tonight, which is why. I don't know who's cornering, but obviously he's not going to get the fight. The weigh-in's already happened, and but I love it. I love that.
I do too.
It'd be a great fight, Uriah Hall and Gilbert Burns. Be a really exciting fight. All right, Yorgan de Castro, Greg Hardy. I think this is probably the. I think most people don't know who Yorgan de Castro is, but it's a lot closer than I think a lot of people think. Like Greg Hardy isn't being fed a punching bag this time. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I mean, man, Yorgan used to be managed by the same guy that my buddy Mo is, so I got a little inside info. He's been pushing hard for this Hardy fight, man. He wants it. And I don't doubt his skills, right? Like the Justin Tafa win is a big win, right? Yeah. Especially because you finished him in the first.
Yeah. Knocked him out cold.
I will say, though, like, Greg Hardy, granted, like, his record won't show it, right? He's 5-2-1. You got the weird thing that happened with Ben with the inhaler. But he fought Volkov in his last fight, right?
In Russia.
And I think it was on short notice, if I don't mistake it. I think it was on short notice. And I'm not saying that he did anything dominant, but he went out there and got his arm broken and still, like, weathered the storm for 2 more rounds. And so Greg Hardy's an athletic freak. I think he steamrolls him. I know that a lot of people may disagree because that's how it looks on paper, but I think that he just overpowers him for the win. And I think that actually I'm going to go decision because I'm interested to see how kind of their conditioning is. So I'm going to go decision as it kind of gets sloppy at the end as they both get tired.
Yeah. So I have Greg Hardy decision. I was originally going to Castro decision, just because I felt like Greg Hardy's going to gas. So I have Greg Hardy coming on strong early. I don't think he finishes de Castro, but I think the one thing that kind of that fight with Volkov is the thing that really shows me what type of guy he is. He's durable. He's not going to get put away. And de Castro probably isn't going to get put away. He's undefeated. And I don't think Greg Hardy will do it. We haven't seen enough of de Castro to really know, I guess. Right. But I don't think Greg Hardy finishes him. I think that the thing that I've been leaning towards is a 3-round fight. Greg Hardy's going to win the first. I think de Castro will win the third, and I think the second is going to be up for grabs. And I think it's going to come down to how quickly Greg Hardy gasses. But the fight is in Florida. Greg Hardy trains out of Florida. So there's no travel for him. So I think that's going to work in his favor. And I think he's going to get gassed later on in the second round. But I think those few minutes, are going to be the deciding factor. He's going to gas. I'm like sure of it. Yeah. I just think it's going to be later on in round 2. And I think those few minutes that fighting in Florida will give him are going to be the deciding factor in the fight. And now Jeremy Stephens, Calvin Kattar.
Dude, it's the number 1 fight I'm looking forward to. As crazy it sounds, I know people are like super excited for co-main event and main event. This is the number 1 fight I want to see. I'm 100% New England Cartel, Calvin Kattar, huge fan, always have been. Love the relationship that him and Rob Font have. Like, I think this is the 4th or 5th time that this has had to be rescheduled due to events. Yeah. On the flip side, though, you got Jeremy Stephens, who is no different than some of the other names we've talked about, right? Guy whose record maybe isn't the prettiest, but this guy bites down on his mouthpiece, puts on a phenomenal fight every time. I think that these two are competing for fight of the night as well. But I think Calvin Kattar gets the decision win. If you look at his last fight against Zabit, I think Zabit definitely started quick, but Taylor tapered off, and Calvin was getting so crisp with his boxing the last part of the second round into the third round. I think Calvin wins. I think he's on a different level right now.
Yeah, so Jeremy Stephens is a weird story, I guess, because he does have the most losses in the UFC, but he also has a crap ton of fights. He only fights killers. Like you're not feeding him anybody. He's on a 3-fight losing streak right now, I think. But those were top guys.
Listen to the names. Listen to the names he's lost to: Yair, Zabit, Aldo, Edgar, Holloway, Charles Oliveira, Cub Swanson, like Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis. Like,
yeah, he's not losing to the nobodies. He's losing to top guys. My question is, what Jeremy Stephens is going to show up? The one that starts Josh Emmett, or the one that's going to lose to the close fight to Zabit. And I think if it goes to decision, I think Kattar gets it done. I don't think Kattar finishes Stephens. I think if it goes to decision, Kattar's got it. If someone's getting knocked out, it's going to be Kattar. But the interesting thing is Jeremy Stephens missed weight, and I'm stuck on that because I think
I didn't know that.
He missed it by 4.5 pounds.
Oh,
so he came in at 150. So I've been back and forth on that because if he missed it because of him just being like, I don't think I'm going to make it, and just like coasting and intentionally not missing it to give himself a little bit of a boost, I think he's got an advantage. But if the reason he missed it is because something went wrong, I think Kattar's got it. So I think that's going to be a huge factor, and I don't know what the cause of the missed weight is.
I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, he missed it by 4.5 pounds, which sucks. It sucks for Kattar, which is kind of why I want him
out. Like,
yeah.
I'd have to look at the stat, but I think the stat is, and I'll double check this, but I think the 83% of the time, if a fighter misses weight, the fighter who missed weight wins.
Yeah. So because it's 4.5 pounds, it's not a pound, it's not 2 pounds. Like that's a significant advantage. Not having to cut 4.5 pounds, that's like an extra 2 days of just not having to drain yourself. I'm not really sure how weight cutting works, so I'm assuming it's like, but it goes a long way, especially for his recovery before the fight. So I think that's going to play a huge factor, and I think Jeremy Stephens might have the advantage, assuming it's not something like, he got a bug or he's sick before the fight, or if it's just, him having a hard time making the cut, I think it's him that's going to pull it off via like knockout or TKO or something. But if it's If it's due to like an illness, then I'm leaning Kattar. But I guess he's the only one that really knows what exactly was the cause of the missed weight.
I can't believe I didn't know that, man. I
Yeah.
feel like, wow, that caught me off guard a little bit. It
Yeah,
does change my perspective a little bit.
Yeah, he's the only one that missed weight. Everyone else missed it. Everyone else made weight, but he missed it by 4.5 pounds, which is significant. So, um,
Makes
yeah,
me like Calvin even more. Like, hey, he doesn't care. He's still gonna fight him. 4.5
I'm
pounds. Calvin's like, let's go.
I'm surprised he took it. Like, it's risky enough as is, but given everything that's going on, it makes it even riskier. So I'm surprised he took the fight, but it makes me root for him. But at the same time, I like Jeremy. I tend to root for guys who are on losing streaks, just because I want them to bounce back. um, Especially when I'm like neutral. Like I like them both. So, yeah, I don't know. But I think Stevens will do it without knowing what exactly was the cause of it. Yeah, if I have to do anything, it's Stevens TKO. I'm set on it. I'm not changing it. All right, and now the fireworks that is Francis Ngannou and Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Man, I don't even care what happens. I'm just excited. Something's gonna happen. There's no way this goes to a decision. Like, granted, I said that before Derek Lewis and Ngannou fought, and that was probably, well, up until Romero Izzy, that was probably the most boring fight of all time. And so, because they got 2 extra rounds, I think that Romero and Izzy changed that. But I think Francis, man, like, okay, if you eliminate the Derek Lewis loss, right? That was just a weird fight.
Yeah.
He's only lost to Stipe.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, like, he didn't have a ton of cage time going into a 5-round fight with Stipe. And so if you think about it, of the fights previous, I think 5 out of his 6 fights were finished in the first round prior to the Stipe fight. The other one got finished in the second round. So I kind of take the Stipe fight with a grain of salt. You have a champion that's used to 5-round fights, the conditioning, how to approach the fight versus a punch-out artist, right? And I think Ngannou has since grown completely. His arms are so long. His boxing is so good. I think Jairzinho can turn the lights off at any minute. Biggie Boy is nothing to mess with. Yeah. But I think if you go back to the Reem fight, Reem was picking him apart, and I thought Reem was playing a very passive Reem fight. Yeah. I don't know what happened to his body kicks. Reem used to be the king of body kicks and knees, and it felt like he kind of got away from that and played the distance game and then got caught right at the end. Ngannou wins in dramatic fashion. He's still at this standstill because the Stipe DC situation, which puts a really weird pressure on the UFC as soon as Francis wins this fight, I think.
Yeah, if Francis wins this, I think the only fight you can do other than that is Volkov. Like, he's fought everybody else. Like, he's eliminated the entire division, and he hasn't even won a title yet. Like, it's crazy.
Or Werdum.
Yeah, if he wins. But I've been back and forth in this. Like, I think Ngannou wins. I've just been back and forth on the method. Everyone's like knockout. But I keep going back to the fight where he ripped the guy's arm off. Remember when he had his back against the cage and he just threw the guy to the ground and ripped his arm. And because Jairzinho Rozenstruik is he's a kickboxer, high level striker. I've been leaning towards like Ngannou just being like, I'm gonna take it down. But why would he? Like, why would he? Like, so it's just like the one fight where I'm like, I want to just be bold and say something outrageous and say it's gonna be Ngannou's submission. But realistically, I don't.
You would win so much money.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but I think it'd be fun if it went to the ground and Ngannou managed to do something crazy. So I was gonna say Ngannou via like just overpowering Kimura or something, but I think Ngannou knockout is probably the wise choice there. But yeah, Ngannou. That being said, Rozenstruik is a monster, but because he was outclassed by Overeem for, what was it, 14 minutes and 59 seconds, I'm leaning towards Ngannou.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I'm not doubting Biggie Boy can do it. Don't get me wrong, because with the heavyweight division, it just takes one punch. I don't care who you are, how good you are. You get clipped, it's over. But man, Ngannou's so good.
Yeah, he's built like the Hulk. Like his build makes no sense.
No.
Yeah.
Genetics.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's crazy, man. All right, now the fun fights, the title fights. So we're gonna minus 200 pounds off Ngannou and Rozenstruik, and then we're gonna look at the 135 pounders and Henry Cejudo and Dominick Cruz. First off, I guess thoughts on Dominick Cruz having the chance to fight for a belt after 3.5 years.
Man, I'm not mad about it. Like, a lot of people get upset about these things, and I'm really not mad about it. I think he's earned it. I think when you're 22-2, you've only lost once in the UFC. You commentate fights. You're always there. Like, he has stayed relevant, even though he hasn't actually been in the octagon, if that makes sense. I think if you look at a 4-year, 3.5-year absence, and maybe you haven't been as relevant as Dominick, there's no chance you get this fight, right? I think it also plays into the fact that it kind of shows you that, like, as much as like Henry's doing a good thing with his little like Triple C act, but nobody likes him, right? Like, I could be wrong, but nobody likes him, and I think the UFC is like, dude, you're boring. Like we get it, it's a cool gimmick, but I think that they're like at this weird standstill of Cejudo is the best in that division, and how do you make it an interesting fight when he doesn't really like draw attendance? 3 years, the 3.5 years of ring rust, man. Even though Dominick will tell you it doesn't exist, like it's hard for me to argue against Cejudo. And I don't like to play into this too much, but if you look at the pictures of the weigh-ins yesterday and you look at Dominick, he doesn't look very healthy. And I don't like to speculate on someone else's health, but like he looked like he was sucked out, drawn out to make this weight cut. And Cejudo looks like he was ready to tear somebody's head off.
All
and
6 of them.
Yeah, right. It's an interesting fight. I think, oh my gosh, either Cejudo's going to catch Dominick or Dominick is just going to outclass him. That's my two ways that I've been feeling back and forth. I would love to see Dominick take Cejudo's head off and reclaim the title, but I'm going Henry Cejudo TKO. 3rd round.
I have, so I wanted the Aldo fight. I don't think, I think Jan and Sterling deserve it. Sterling made it clear he doesn't want to fight through the pandemic. And Jan just recently won against Faber, who I don't think that fight warrants you a title shot. So you go for the next biggest name, and that right now is Cruz. So as much as I don't like the fact that he's getting a title shot after 3.5 years, if anybody's going to fight for the title, if it's not Aldo, it has to be Cruz, just given the way everything else has played out. So as much as I don't like it, I'd much rather be Sterling and Jan, but since those options aren't available, Cruz makes sense. As for the fight itself, I have Cruz winning via decision. And I think, I want Cruz to win. I don't like Cejudo very much, as I don't like the gimmick. I liked him before. I liked him when he was himself. I liked him on The Ultimate Fighter. His beef with Benavidez was at least a little bit. It was real. It wasn't a fake or anything like that. I'm not a fan of the punting pillows with people's faces on it. I don't like that. I get it. A lot of people want to watch him lose, so it's good for that fact. Or you're promoting the fight. But I want Dominick to win, and Dominick's never been finished. even against Cody. And I think Cody's got way more knockout power than Cejudo. He took a lot of damage in that fight. He got dropped several times. But he wasn't gonna. He didn't lose, so he didn't get finished. So for that reason, I think Cruz is gonna decision him, and I think he's gonna win. Not comfortably, but I think it's gonna be a close fight for 25 minutes. And then I look at Cejudo's fight against Bryce, and he was outclassed until Bryce got gassed. And
That's true.
Cruz doesn't gas. So even with 3.5 years off, I don't think he gasses in the fight. So I just think it's going to be like he's going to keep him at range. It's going to be a comfortable fight. Both of them are going to land shots, but I think Cruz is going to win 3 rounds to 2. It's not going to be the most entertaining fight of the night. I don't think it's going to be the closest fight of the night. I just think it's going to be like comfortable Cruz win. But who knows? Who knows, man? Like, and I didn't think he was gonna knock out TJ Dillashaw either. So you never know. You never know. So, but yeah, I have Cruz decision.
I hope that Dominick was just like, hey, it's a weight cut for the first time. Like, I hope it's not like a bad weight cut that like happened with TJ, and all of a sudden now you've compromised your chin because of it. That's what I don't hope. I hope it is a good fight.
But I don't like the thing about Dominick is he's had options to return and he just never did. And I think he knew this was a good time. Like I don't think he would take the fight if he wasn't ready, because he's had long layoffs and he just didn't return. Like he didn't return for Barral. He didn't return. Like there were several times where he could have returned and fought for a title and didn't because he wasn't ready. So I think Cruz is smart, and I don't think he would take this fight if he wasn't physically at 100%. But I did see what you mean though, where he didn't look his typical self at the weigh-ins. But I don't think. I think we have to judge him based on his physique on fight night. So I think the way he looks tonight will be the. If he comes in looking like a skeleton, like TJ Dillashaw did against Cejudo, then I think we'll be like, before the fight even starts, we're like, this is over. But I think tonight's going to be where you can kind of see it. Like
Cowboys, I agree. I think it's interesting.
Like Cowboy on weigh-ins looks terrible, especially at 155. But then he shows up at fight night and he looks fine. So I think it all depends on how he looks tonight. And same with Joanna. Joanna looks terrible when she weighs in every time. Sure. So I think it's just going to be the way he looks tonight. I think is going to be the better way to kind of predict the fight. And now the fight I'm dying to watch. Drum roll. Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. I've been back and forth on this over and over and over again, but I'm trusting my gut.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I will tell you, self-admittedly, if there's one fighter that I've gone back in the last month and a half and watched more fights than anyone else, it's Tony Ferguson. One, I think he's got a certain perception, and I think there were some moments that I forgot about, right? Like looking at some of these fights. And I would have told you, I forget what I said last time we talked about it was Khabib Tony, and I was like, he's just not going to beat Khabib. I wouldn't change on that. But I did think to myself when Gaethje replaced, I was like, ooh, Tony could probably get this fight. Especially after the weigh-in, I thought that type of discipline was like the focus that it takes to still make weight, even though you don't have to make weight, is ridiculous, right? You're just on a different level mentally. But through going back and watching these fights, Tony is not the smartest fighter. Nope. And neither is Justin, which I think makes me want this fight even more. But there are times that Tony gets caught, and I think the power that he has had to deal with, looking at the list of fighters that he's fought, compared to the power that Justin Gaethje has fought, when you look at his 2 losses, I think Gaethje catches him. I think he actually puts him out, which is crazy to say because I think that Tony's freak type of conditioning allows him to have such a crazy chin. But I think the double weight cut, he kind of looked like a weird bat almost with like his sides yesterday. I don't know. Like I'm interested to see if that impacts his chin, but I'm calling Justin Gaethje knockout. I don't know what round, but Gaethje gets another bonus. Now creates this weird standstill with Khabib and him because they're both under the same manager. I don't know what you do there. I'm sure Gaethje wins this title fight, but I'm calling Justin Gaethje, but I could definitely see Tony pulling off some weird submission.
Yeah. So I've been so back and forth on this fight. Like I don't think Tony is going to TKO Gaethje. I think he has a chance to submit him. I don't think he will, but I think he could. And even like you look at all of Tony Ferguson's last fights, he gets rocked. He gets rocked against Lando. He gets rocked against Pettis. He hasn't dominated anybody, right? They all look terrible afterwards because he's elbowed them in the face thousands of times, but he gets elbowed in the face. He gets punched in the face. He gets kicked. He gets, and Gaethje has way more power than Lando. He has way more power than Pettis. Gaethje never got knocked out against Eddie Alvarez and Poirier. He lost, but mainly it was because the referee was tired of him being like beat up. So I think if Ferguson wins, it's going to be doctor stoppage or decision. I think the doctor is going to be like, okay, well, I can't see, like, Justin Gaethje will have some massive gash over his forehead, but I don't think he's going to be TKO'd or KO'd or decision. I think if he can manage the early storm of Justin Gaethje, 2.5 rounds, if he can weather it, Ferguson may be able to coast to a decision. I think Justin Gaethje's wrestling is strong enough to keep it on the feet. I don't think a submission will really come into play. But I think I have Gaethje's second round TKO or knockout. But I don't even it's so hard to predict this fight because honestly, like, I'm just tired of really talking about it. I just want to watch it. Like yes. I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I want Gaethje to win because I love Gaethje. And Ferguson, for whatever reason, I don't want him to fight Khabib. I love Khabib, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because I think he could beat Khabib, and I don't want that. So I'm rooting for Gaethje.
The only thing I hope doesn't happen is I hope this isn't a repeat of UFC 244, which, don't get me wrong, I think that Nate Diaz's eye needed to be stopped, right?
Yeah.
But I hope that you don't have this huge, exciting fight that gets stopped by a cut when Gaethje still wants to fight, Tony still wants to fight, but because of some type of injury and everyone being precautious, now all of a sudden we end the fight and we're still left with this, well, Gaethje could have kept fighting, same way as people thought about Nate with Jorge. Like, I hope we don't end up in that type of weird situation. I hope that we get what we expect out of this fight.
Yeah. That being said, I don't see it. Like, I don't see it going to decision. Like, I think if it goes to decision, Ferguson wins, but I don't see it getting there. I think either Doctor stops it or Gaethje puts him out. So if Ferguson, I'm just going to go with it. If Ferguson wins, it's Doctor stoppage. If Gaethje wins, it's TKO. I have Gaethje TKO second round. That's my decision. I'm sticking with it. All right.
And I mean, I think if it does come down to wrestling, like even if you watch a Kevin Lee fight, like Kevin Lee has like open staph infection on his chest. Like, so you could tell that his conditioning gets weathered, but he took Tony down so easy during that fight.
Yeah.
And Tony didn't really know what to do for a long period of time during that until all of a sudden Kevin Lee started getting really tired. So like that kind of swayed me a little bit too, watching some previous fights. Yeah,
I don't see Gaethje even making the attempt because he's never done it. But if for whatever reason he ever had to, I don't think he could take Ferguson down at ease. I think, and I don't think Ferguson. I mean, Ferguson's great off his back, but I think Gaethje would just hold him there long enough to recover and then stand back up. Like I don't see Gaethje entertaining the ground game like Kevin Lee did. So yeah. It's fun. it's a fun card, man. Like top to bottom. I think for the most part, for the most part we have same picks. Like I have Cruz, you have Cejudo, I have Stevens, you have Kattar. Um, but I think everybody else is the same. I think we have the same picks for everybody else. So um, we
That
kind
might
of
be bad for you. Usually when they're aligned with someone, then they're not very good. So
yeah,
that didn't
yeah.
screw
But
you over
I've been
up
back
there.
and forth with a lot of them. Like my predictions that I submitted to Bloody Canvas are very like they're slightly different than these. Like I had Kattar, I didn't have Stevens. Like I've just kind of I've been flopping. I submitted those on Tuesday, so my picks have changed a bit since. So man, but it's a fun fight. I can't wait for tonight. Uh, got my
Oh
proper
man.
12 ready. I'm ready to go.
So here's a good question ending on this. So Dana White's doing the whole him and Halle Berry guess winner gets to pick a fight of their choice. You get to match make your own UFC fight. So say you were to win, what is the fight you make?
Jones Stipe. Probably like if I could make any fight, like realistically, they're not going to be like, all right, yeah, you can match up Conor McGregor with anybody. They're going to be like, you can match up Jim Miller or someone that's outside the top 15. They're not letting you. They're not entertaining the thought of you matching up Conor McGregor. But theoretically, if I could match up anybody, man, I don't know, but probably Jones and Brock maybe. If I could, if for whatever reason that fight could happen, I'd love to see Jones and Brock. If not Jones and Brock, like Jones and Stipe. Probably Jones Stipe. What about
Hell
you?
yeah. I kind of took it with the same way, right? They're not going to give you like the ability to pick some crazy fight that everyone's like, oh my God. So I have a couple, and I think they're all realistic matchups that I would like to see again eventually. So going through and watching the Edson Barbosa Tony Ferguson fight, I'd love to see that again. Thinking about, I would even say Yoel and Kevin Gastelum. And no, just the fight that they will give because the UFC wants to have it. Number one fight, Jorge versus Colby.
Yeah, I love that fight.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
think as far as fights they give you, you got to kind of pick middle tier because that's what they're going to give you flexibility with, I think.
yeah. They wouldn't let you. They wouldn't even entertain the thought of you matching up someone who's even ranked. Like they may let you like. I was thinking like maybe Matt Brown or Jim Miller or some biggish name, but not quite top 15. But I'd love to see Matt Brown's fighting Miguel Beza, but I'd love to see Matt Brown versus even like Mike Perry or Matt Brown, Niko Price, like something like that. I think would be a lot of fun for a mid-tier fight. I love Matt Brown, so Matt Brown. If I had to pick a mid-tier fight, it'd be like Matt Brown versus Niko Price or Mike Perry.
Love it.
All right, man. Well, can't wait for tonight. I got my I got proper 12. I got Jack Daniels. I got everything ready to go. What do you do you drink during the fights or do you just sit down and enjoy them?
Man, I will tell you, I'm an interesting person when it comes to fights. I watch them by myself.
Yep, I do that too.
Don't drink it all because I want to be able to know, like, remember in the moment. The only time I ever drink during fights is when I go to them.
Yep.
But I watch from the first card, even if it wasn't stacked like it is today, where you have Ryan Spann and Alvey on the first card of the night. I usually try and watch from the beginning to end. My game plan is I actually am watching the fights with someone. So my buddy Maurice Green in the UFC, I've been watching his kiddo because it was his fiance's birthday. So that kind of gave him the hall pass to come over and watch fights. And we haven't hung out since quarantine began. So it'll be the two of us watching fights. And I'm really intrigued because you got a guy that has kind of had some ups and downs in the heavyweight division with 3 heavyweight fights going on. So not only does it get us a chance to kind of watch the fights, but kind of spectate to see what options might present themselves in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because he's gonna watch a guy that he fought. Right? He's gonna watch Oleinik fight, and I think the loser of the Hardy de Castro fight would be a good matchup for him. He lost to a guy in the top 15. He was just in the top 15 just a few months ago. So even like if de Castro or if Hardy loses, I think that'd be a great fight for him.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But man, all the best, and enjoy the fights, man. I'm just sitting down. We're doing a fight companion with a few of my buddies, so I usually do watch them by myself, but first one back in a while, so I was like, I got to at least have some friends over, or, since no one's allowed over. I've got my setup. I got 2 laptops. I got a monitor. I got a TV. So you can see the background's different. I shifted 10 feet from the kitchen into the living room so I could watch the fight. So, all the best, man, and we'll have to do something with Maurice soon. I'd love to have him on and talk to him.
Oh yeah, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Good luck on your picks, but my boy Calvin Cater's taking it.